This is the start of what most people would call Heisei Phase 2. If you know even the basics of Kamen Rider, then you're probably aware of what I'm talking about. If you're new, then firstly, welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay as I talk about this season from beginning to end with the summary and review. So that goes without saying that there's gonna be spoilers, in case you didn't read the opening text. Although I don't give away every detail in case you're interested in watching the show for yourself. If you're a returning viewer, then hopefully the wait is worth it. I normally don't start out this way, but with Double being arguably one of, if not the most popular Heisei Phase 2 season, at least to the Western fanbase, I might as well cover my bases. Back to what I was saying, Kamen Rider Decade is the end of Heisei Phase 1, although you might have heard the seasons onward collectively be called Neo Heisei. There are a group of people who don't like that name, mostly because it's not like Emperor Heisei came back as a cyborg. I personally don't call it that, so I'll keep saying Phase 1 and Phase 2, but I don't think there's an official designation. With Kamen Rider Double being the start of Phase 2, you'd expect drastic changes, and while there are some innovations, Double plays it safe. I don't mean that in a bad way. Kamen Rider Blade and Hibiki had changes, both good and bad respectively. Though again, Double is one of the most fondly remembered seasons, so you can tell this is going to be one of those positive kinds of videos. By the way, I've been saying Double this whole time even though it's spelled with a single letter W. W. Double. 2 detectives in 1, 2 title segments, 2 slots for the driver. Double. At least it sounds cool. Alright, we should get to the show. We start with 2 boys getting shot at in a dark building. Then a man in white gives one of them his hat with his dying breath. The boys get attacked, so they use what look like USB drives. They wave their arms and transform. Cool, right? Well, this is just the opening. We see a woman walk into a billiard place, which houses a detective agency. A man on a bike comes and coolly puts on his fedora, asking if she has any business with him. This is one of the boys from the opening, named Shotaro. He tries to act what he calls hard-boiled, then she gives him an eviction notice. Her name is Akiko Narumi, the daughter of Sokichi Narumi, the man in white who died in the opening, Shotaro's boss. All Shotaro can muster up to say is that he isn't coming back. Another woman arrives with a request. This is a detective agency after all, so Shotaro solves cases for his clients. He gives a hard-boiled monologue, until Akiko hits him with a green sandal. They notice a traffic jam which was the work of a monster called a dopant. With some info gathered, the two go back to the agency where Akiko meets Shotaro's partner, Philip, face to face, and Shotaro tells her about the dopants. They're monsters created by Gaia memories, the USB drives we saw briefly. Philip also has a special power. He can look up information on anything imaginable through the Gaia library, a literal archive within his mind. With this, he listens to keywords to help Shotaro's cases. Philip gives Shotaro enough information to find the culprit from the traffic incident. Shotaro confronts the culprit, who then activates a Gaia memory to transform into a dopant. Then Shotaro readies his own Gaia memory, and Philip does as well.
Henshin. Cyclone Joker!
Together they form the 2-in-1 detective, the 2-in-1 Kamen Rider Double. I fell in love with this suit as soon as I saw it on screen for the first time. Green and purple is a great color combination, especially since it's not that common of a color scheme in Kamen Rider. The suit itself seems a bit simple. It's definitely smooth, but the subtle lines and accents add enough where it doesn't come off as a chromatic mannequin. The visor is one of my favorite things about the suit, since they form the letter W along with the chest design. A pretty nice detail is that the halves of the visor lights up to signify who's talking. Philip has a Cyclone memory side, and Shotaro has the Joker memories. Of course, it doesn't light up every single time, but it's neat when it does. When it comes to the double driver, it's interesting. While not one of my favorites, I appreciate the intricacies on the sides of the Gaia memory slots. I usually prefer smaller drivers, although maybe this one is too small, but I like that it's flatter than past ones. From experience, opening it is a lot of fun, and the middle of the slot showing the memory logos is a nice touch. The announcer voice staple continues here. It's as simple as the Ryuki voice, but an accent or unusual announcer definitely helps. With what? I'm not entirely sure, but I like it over Ryuki's at the very least. Each transformation Gaia memory has a jingle to accompany the voice. I love jingles, and Double is a step in the right direction. They're simple and to the point, even if I prefer ones from later seasons. I also didn't realize until at least a year after the season, but when Shotaro and Philip transform, their arms attempt to make a W shape side by side, much like how the driver makes a W when it's open. Remember when I said that this season plays it safe? The production crew confirmed that this season has homages to the Showa era, starting with the classic Ichigo muffler or scarf. That's another one of my favorite parts of the suit. What can I say? Scarves became cool. Link wears one, Proto Man wears one, Double wears one. You know how the West has this negative stigma towards fedoras? Well, Shotaro looks really good in one. The scarf just adds to this overall hard-boiled aesthetic. Weirdly enough, earlier concepts of Double had him wear a trench coat. I'm actually kinda interested in seeing how that would have been in live action, aside from a suit we'll see in the later season. Going back to playing it safe, episode 1 ends with Double finishing off the dopant. Then another dopant appears that's connected to the case. Episode 2 focuses on the second dopant, figuring out who it is through investigation and defeating it. Yup, it's the popular 2-episode arc structure again. I don't mind watching episodic shows, but sometimes they can drag. That's not the case when it comes to Double. Going through the investigations and requests keeps things very interesting. We always begin with the client asking for help, Shotaro searching for clues, finding out a dopant is involved, and then Double destroying their Gaia memory. Now, this isn't Sherlock Holmes where you can figure things out yourself through logical deduction, because a lot of the times the answers come to the characters rather than the viewer. But that's okay. What's driving me to watch is the cast. The dynamic between Philip and Shotaro is fantastic. Shotaro pretends to be a hard-boiled detective, but also has meme faces, while Philip is a genius that focuses on one thing at a time. He also doesn't have memories of his past life other than one of a family he used to have. And Akiko, uses slippers? Shotaro, being a detective, has informants and friends that he gets help from. There's a couple of detectives from the police department, Gino and Makara, as well as some civilians like Watcherman, Santa-chan, don't ask, plus 2 high schoolers, Queen and Elizabeth. I don't know what it is about this show, but I love each of these characters. They don't get a focus whatsoever. Heck, they don't even appear that often, but it's so cool to see them whenever they pop up. As weird as it sounds, a lot of this enjoyment also goes towards the dopants too. We've had villain groups that are monsters like the Lords and Undead, plus people who organically are monsters like the Grongi and Orphanok. Now we have regular humans who use Gaia memories to transform into the monsters. Past structures had the Monster of the Week formula. We still have that with an added episode, though it also means that there's more time to develop not only the main cast, but the villains and one-off characters as well. We've had sympathetic Monsters of the Week before, although now it feels more personal as we see more human-like stakes for the clients and dopants themselves. You know what? I'm gonna say the city is its own character too. The main location in previous seasons has usually been Tokyo, with extra scenery being filmed out by the ocean or the mountains. This time we have the new fictional place of Futo, nicknamed the Windy City. Obviously, filming locations are the same as before, just with different names. But something as simple as a name change gives this place a personality. Futo has a cute mascot named Mr. Futo. He's a pinwheel. The irregulars like Santa-chan are bustling, and the giant Futo tower that looms in the background is memorable. There's a charm to the main cast, the monsters of the week, and even the city itself that seem all too real. Oh, I should bring up the villain group of this season. Civilians must be getting these Gaia memories from somewhere, right? The memories are distributed by people who work for a museum, an entity that's researching the Earth. They also run an actual museum. The Sonozaki family is the one running this operation, headed by Ryube and his 2 daughters, Saiko and Wakana, the latter of which is a famous radio talk show host. Saiko has been seeing a man named Kirihiko who's interested in marrying her, so he's given the Nazca Gaia memory. Museum also has their own mooks that use the masquerade memory. At least they're more than just a morph suit. A big difference you may notice from Phase 1 and 2 seasons is that Phase 2 typically has a lot of side content. And I mean a lot of side content. Before we were guaranteed at least one movie and a hyper battle video, maybe a special if they were lucky or named Kamen Rider Den-O. Crossover movies between writers weren't really a thing. Agito showed up in a Ryuki hyper battle video, but that barely counts as it was just a dream sequence and no previous Agito actors returned. Kiva and Dan-no crossed over, but again, just barely, since it was more of a Dan-no movie that happened to have Kiva. Same with the Dan-no and Decade movie. I sure am bringing up Dan-no a lot. It'll never escape me. Back on topic, Double has the true start of Kamen Rider crossovers known then as Movie Wars. What I'm bringing up here is Kamen Rider Cross Kamen Rider Double and Decade, Movie War 2010. There's split stories between each respective writer, a formula which won't change until 5 years later. Decade's portion of the movie was brought up during History of Decade, as I felt that the full story should be complete there, so I won't retell it here. After all, it's called Decade Final Chapter. Why wouldn't I bring it up there? Double's portion is called Begins Night, the story of where it all began. At the detective agency, Shotaro puts on a fedora, but Sokichi tells him not to wear it until he's ready. It's the holidays in the present day. However, crime doesn't stop, so Shotaro gets a case to work on. The personification of death presents itself to Shotaro when Philip notices someone in a white suit walking towards them. Akiko recognizes the man as her father, so Kichi pulls out a Skull Gaia memory and one-sided double driver, known as the Lost Driver, transforming into Kamen Rider Skull. Philip says it can't be the real Sokichi Narumi because he's supposed to be dead, a secret that Akiko didn't know until now. After fighting the fake Sokichi, Shotaro goes to an island to visit his boss's unofficial grave. Philip has been there waiting for him to arrive, to retell the story of Begins Night. A long time ago, Sokichi and Shotaro were investigating the building at the island to find the Child of Fate. An alarm rings out, so Sokichi transforms to fight the Masquerade Mooks and Psycho's taboo Dopant form. Kamen Rider Skull has such a cool suit, and the fedora actually works with it. Fun fact, Skull had an early form without the S on the helmet that's based on the ancient crystal skulls. During the fight, Shotaro notices the Child of Fate walk into a room. The child is a bit pushy, revealing a double driver inside a case that Shotaro was holding. Shotaro pushes him into a Gaia tower, forcing Sokichi to break him out. That's when we saw Sokichi get shot. He tells Shotaro to finish the case, and puts a white fedora on his head. Shotaro and Philip transform into Double, then a strange dinosaur-like Gaia memory saves Philip's body. This memory grants Double a new form, Fang Joker. Don't worry, we'll get to that in a bit. In the present day, Philip tells Shotaro something that he didn't know. Sokichi briefly entered the Gaia library with Philip. As the Child of Fate, Philip didn't have his memories, let alone a name, so Sokichi gave him one, named after Philip Marlowe. Shotaro and Philip later discover that the culprit's Gaia memory isn't death, it's dummy, as in a cheap copy. The Dopant attempts to escape, so Double chases after him. Meanwhile, Tsukasa, Kamen Rider Decade, is in his own battle and Double rides up beside him. They agree to help each other out by defeating the Dopant and this weird elephant thing. I also don't know if I'll forget to bring this up in History of Decade, but Natsumi's grandpa was being controlled by Shinigami Hakase Gaia memory. Moving on. Tsukasa uses the final form ride on Double, splitting them into two as Cyclone and Joker. After the battle is over, Decade hands over Kamen Rider Skull Rider card to Shotaro, summoning a Sokichi from another world. This Sokichi compliments Shotaro's hat and rides off. In the end, Tsukasa and his friends continue their journey together, and Shotaro celebrates Christmas. Ironically, this is the only time Santa-chan isn't seen wearing his Santa suit. In the after credits, a man in red appears in Futo, holding on to an Excel Gaia memory. My thoughts on half of this movie are obviously gonna be in History of Decade, but when it comes to Double, well, it's pretty good. Like I said in the beginning, I don't bring up every single detail, so you have more to look forward to in the seasons I talk about. If there's one thing I don't like about this movie, it's how the Dopant civilian was kinda forced in to have a twist you didn't see coming. Other than that, the movie tells the origin story pretty well. There's still some questions left to be asked, but those are answered in other places. Remember when I said that Phase 2 seasons have a lot of side content? Let's just say that this movie barely scratches the surface of things I bring up outside this 49 episode show. Our next big event comes in episode 13 and 14. Wakana has been the target of a Dopant attack, so she gets Shotaro's help. She overhears that Philip has been the brains of Shotaro's agency, so she goes to visit him. Philip hides behind a door and she grabs his hand, knowing that he'll be a helpful ally. Philip asks if anyone's tried to kill her before. It's for the case, so it's not that weird of a question. She says yes. Her sister, Psycho, has been a bully to her since they were young. However, Wakana's little brother has helped before too. He isn't here anymore, but she remembers him. Another clue arrives in episode 15, the F Afterglow. A case leads Double cornered, forcing them to untransform so Philip can escape. However, he runs into Psycho. Her arms are open and calls him Raito. We saw in Begins Night that Philip is the child of fate, one born from the earth. Now we know his real name is Raito. Shotaro and Akiko are being played by a dopant. Akiko holds Shotaro by a rope. If she lets go, then he'll get impaled on sharp pipes. Akiko can't hold on any longer, so she's forced to let go, but the Fang memory and Philip arrive in time to save them. Earlier, Shotaro told Akiko about Fang. It's a sentient Gaia memory that Philip was afraid of using because it made him go berserk. Now Philip pushed himself and transforms. Man, I love this suit, and the fight scene isn't bad either. Actually, let's get into that. I normally don't bring up the action in Kamen Rider because it's pretty self-explanatory. It's always been good with how to shoot fight scenes. Earlier seasons had it a bit rough, but those are most likely stylistic choices, especially with Kamen Rider Kuga and Nagito. Now there's more integration of CGI, and I don't want to hear complaints of, but the older fight scenes were better cause it's all computer generated now, yada yada yada. No they're not. Stop it. CG has been used a lot back then too, but a majority of the modern action is still suit actor versus suit actor. Here's one clean swipe with Fang Joker. It's awesome, and the rest of the fight is hand to hand. I wouldn't even say that there's an over-reliance of CG, as that's typically saved for finishers or the weird sky battles that look extremely outdated, though still better than Kuga's transformations. Episode 17 starts with Double fighting Kirihiko, then we flash back to 30 minutes earlier. Alright then. Shotaro and Kirihiko are having a shave. They're enjoying each other's company, talking about how much they love Futo, until they see who they're talking to. Hey wait, I know that face! I've seen that meme posted from non-Toku fans. Oh, how far we've come from 2008 templates. Anyway, Kirihiko has been distributing Gaia memories all this time, so he's had his share of fights with Double up to this point. However, that's gonna come to an end with episodes 17 and 18. Farewell N. Kirihiko enters a secret elevator in the Sonozaki mansion that leads to an underground tunnel. Within the tunnel is a well called the Fountain, where Gaia memories are created. He learns that Ryubei is an evil man, selling Gaia memories to teens and using Psycho for his own gain. Meanwhile, Double is fighting a dopant when Kirihiko helps defeating it. Kirihiko has been injured, but before he goes, he tells Double that their enemy is an organization called Museum. He hands Shotaro a gift, a one-of-a-kind keychain of Mr. Futo. Kiriko tells them to take care of the city. On a rooftop, Kirihiko asks Psycho to run away with him. She answers by blasting him away. Kirihiko enjoys Futo's win one last time, and then takes his final breath. Back at the agency, Akiko screams about seeing a CGI beetle. It flies towards a man in red, who says he hates Futo.
Kamen Rider Double. この後すぐ
While Kamen Rider Double isn't in my top Kamen Rider spot, it does hold a special place in my heart. You see, roughly around the time that I was leaving Japan, that was when I was entering high school. So that was the end of Den-O starting Kiva. So I would watch Kiva on streams, and then I would watch Decade on streams, and then while I was hanging out in homeroom, that's when I noticed Double was starting to air. I actually happened to show it to a couple of my classmates, and then, at first they were just like, it's just Japanese Power Rangers, that we actually sat down and started watching it like a couple episodes like every week. That was pretty much my friend's gateway Kamen Rider series. The show I believe is like very enjoyable. My one critique, if I had to, about it would have been the Wakana Philip romance subplot that was just really weird, honestly. Everything else, though, I really enjoyed about it. Even Akiko's outbursts. The Gaia memories themselves, really cool. Especially love the voices. Money! It's one of my favorite ones to listen to and play around with. I would definitely recommend it to people who are just getting into Kamen Rider. Pretty much I love the character development for those characters. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Kamen Rider Double. I'm sorry that I jumped around a lot, but hopefully those are suitable.
Kamen Rider Double この後すぐ
Episode 19, The Eye Doesn't Stop. Shotaro coolly plays billiards, but somehow manages to throw the cue stick when a stranger catches it. This man is Superintendent Terui Ryu. He's working a case where people have become frozen, possibly by a dopant. It seems Terui knows a lot more than he's let on. He knows of Double, Philip, and the Gaia Library. Their investigation has them go to an amusement park. Terui sees a woman in a black coat and follows her. He calls her Shroud. She points at a case in front of his feet. Inside is a driver. Terui walks up to a dopant that Double has been fighting. He slams a heavy sword to the ground and transforms.
Axel! Shin!
This is Kamen Rider Axel, or Excel if you want to use the English pronunciation. The suit is oddly bulky, but it looks alright. Maybe a little too much red though. He fights the dopant and transforms into a bike. I have no idea where to even start with that. I don't even want to begin to imagine how that works. And yes, I know there's another Kamen Rider transformed into a bike. We'll get to that when we get to that. We later learn that Terui is trying to solve this case out of revenge. When Terui was just a regular police officer, he arrived home and saw his mom, dad, and sister frozen. Then they shattered before his eyes. Jeez, Kamen Rider, you're hardcore. A woman named Shroud wanted to help Ryu take revenge against the dopant that did this. The dopant that holds the W Gaia memory. However, the culprit of this case has the Ice Age memory. The real owner of the W memory has just visited Saiko and Wakana. His name is Isaka, and he controls the weather memory. During a case, Philip is forced out of Double by Isaka. Shotaro watches as Isaka lightning strikes Philip, but then a bird flies over and rescues him, absorbing Philip like a UFO. Ryubei is told of this bird-like memory. He says it's the extreme Gaia memory, and it could only have come from one person. Philip wakes up in the extreme memory by being called Raito. Shroud tells him that Shotaro is a dangerous person, but Philip moves on. Episode 31 and 32, The Wind Called B. Shroud meets with Philip saying that he's gonna acquire a new power. Power that shouldn't involve Shotaro. She said that Shotaro isn't his true partner. Shotaro's feeling useless, so Philip asks Terui to team up instead. But Terui is more offended for him to even say such a thing. Akiko tells Philip that there's more to Shotaro than just being a fighter. Alone, Philip shows Shotaro a message from Sokichi, a piece of paper that simply says, "Nobody's perfect." They're gonna work together as a team, no matter what. They write together as the theme, "Nobody's Perfect" plays. More on that in a bit. They go to fight the dopants of this case. The extreme memory hovers over them, absorbing Philip and attaching himself to the double driver. Philip and Shotaro become one, granting them a new form.
Extreme!
Kamen Rider Cyclone Joker Extreme. Still a mouthful. This is one form where I'm gonna save my thoughts for a certain point. You'll know when it happens. For now, let's go back to the music. This is obvious, but music is a powerful thing, especially in a drama and action show like Kamen Rider, which is why I love insert themes, specifically the vocal ones. I don't think there's ever been a theme I outright hated. Kamen Rider music is just so good, and not just insert themes. Double's original soundtrack is phenomenal. Each track has a lot of love and care put into them. I can just feel the investigative juices flowing from every bass line. Even the laid-back music is great. They're bouncy and feel good. Not to mention the opening theme. The trigger is more known as being covered by Philip and Shotaro in episode 23. Cyclone Effect? Well, you'll see. Axel's instrumental theme, Leave All Behind, is such an earworm. I swear I hear it every time I see the color red. Extreme Dream is another contender for one of my favorite themes ever. Unfortunately, it's only played twice in the season, towards the end. It's still an amazing song that conveys the connection between Shotaro and Philip. They've struggled to get this far, but they did it. Which leads me into Nobody's Perfect, a song sung by Sokichi's actor himself. If Extreme Dream is the climax of their struggle, then Nobody's Perfect is the path that gets them there. I've listened to Nobody's Perfect when I'm down, and it's helped quite a bit. Can you tell that double means a lot to me? Alright, episode 35, Beyond the R. Terui notices a woman who has a bioconnector, the marks that show they're compatible with Gaia memories. Coincidentally, Shotaro was given a case that involves the same woman. Her bioconnector is larger than we've seen before, because Isaka was using her as an experiment. A long time ago, Isaka witnessed Ryubei use the terror memory, so he wanted more power. In parallel, Terui wants more power as well, so he goes to Shroud. She gives him a few trials to complete, and a literal trial memory. Meanwhile, Ryubei confronts Isaka, fully knowing that Isaka's been planning to take him down. Though not just him, as Psycho is also part of the plan to take control of Museum. One of Terui's tests is to complete a race course in under 10 seconds. Terui tries many times, but fails. Shroud can feel that he's not fighting for revenge, so after one last attempt, she says that he passed since she's no longer interested in him. Akiko notices that her stopwatch had more than 10 seconds. Terui goes to face Isaka. Terui takes out the trial memory and transforms into Kamen Rider Axel Trial. Using this form, Terui can move lightning fast. Plus his finisher is... just look at it. Wait, what was that? Nice explosions, Toei. Totally couldn't see when the suit actor was moved. Isaka's body gets covered in bioconnectors, then he fades away after saying that Shroud had their fate sealed a long time ago. Stakes are getting higher in episode 37, Visitor X. Shotaro and Akiko attempt to take a picture for their website, but it's not all fun and games as Ryubei tells Wakana that someone from Foundation X is arriving soon. Meanwhile, Psycho is being hunted down for betraying the family. Then Philip gets an emergency call from Wakana, so they need to meet right away. In actuality, Wakana said that to trick Philip into seeing each other face to face for the first time. She wanted advice on what to do with Museum. Wakana is going to be chosen to be Ryubei's successor, but she feels like it's wrong. At the very least, Philip and Wakana seem happy, and even joke about running away together. A member of Foundation X, Jun Kazu, meets with Ryubei. He's ready to exchange leadership position. Wakana, in tears, calls Philip saying that they really should run away. He feels conflicted. Akiko doesn't want him to go, but Shotaro says it's all Philip's choice. Philip decides to go with Wakana, however, important information is said to him. The client of this case was a scientist that worked with Museum to study the Gaia memories. This scientist was the one who erased Philip's memories about his family and his name. Now the scientist reveals that Philip's real name is Raito Sonozaki, Ryubei's son and Wakana's brother. Philip runs to the station where he agreed to meet Wakana, but she attacks him. We find out more about Shroud in episode 43 and 44, O's Link. Ryubei knows who Shroud is, saying that she's the embodiment of hatred, as we could tell from her using Terui for revenge. Shroud talks to Philip and Terui. She wants them to combine and become the ultimate double, Cyclone Axel Extreme. She says that she chose Terui because he has a strong mind that's able to withstand certain Gaia memories, possibly even Ryubei's terror memory. She knew this so she could get revenge. Then Wakana enters their conversation. Shroud's real name is Fumine Sonozaki, Philip's mother. Shroud is fighting for more than hatred. She's fighting out of her love for Philip. She got in Ryubei's way, and in consequence got her face distorted. Terui was part of the plan, but she's the one who gave Isaka the weather memory, not knowing that he would kill Terui's family. Philip overhears and intrudes, agreeing to fight, but only if Shotaro is involved too.
There's a lot to say, yet not a lot to say about Double. While simple in execution, the story has many different twists and turns that, on a second or third viewing, make you wonder how you missed them from the start. I say second or third viewing because I've had the habit of watching Double, or at least a few episodes of it, every few months. And I joked to my friends in a Discord server about either watching something new or just watching Double again. It just has that effect on me. It was the first Kamen Rider I completed. Albeit I watched X-Aid in the span of only a few days, length of time spent does not equal enjoyment. It took me longer to watch it because I would watch half of an arc in one day and think on the mystery it presents and then finish it afterwards, finding out my thoughts on how the mystery could be resolved were right or not. I'm a major detective fiction fan, coming from the works of Yumeneko Neko Kono ni, Agatha Christie, and of course, Sherlock Holmes. It's different than those series because while there is a genius involved, he is not the main central character. This is not his story. It's Shotaro and Philip's. It's Shotaro's story in solving the mysteries of his beloved city. He may not be the smartest or the bravest, but he's one of a kind, and he grounds the actual Sherlock Holmes. While it's Philip's story about family, coming into one's own, and not letting your past mistakes define you. While he looks to the past for his memories, it's also a story about moving forward towards the future with those he considers his new family. Shotaro, Akiko, and by extension, the rest of Futo. Kamen Rider Double takes things that I love and gives them a Kamen Rider twist, which is why I think no matter what series comes out in the future, Double will always be my favorite. Well, that's enough from me. Back to you, Marcos.
仮面ライダーダブルこの後すぐ
Years ago, a boy named Daido Katsumi died in a car accident. Then he got revived at the project called Never. The project needed more funding, but the sponsor, Foundation X, went towards Gaia Memories instead. Years later, Katsumi has a band of mercenaries, so their next target is the southeast. There, they get involved with people who have psychic powers, and a white soldier with red flames named Eternal. Katsumi gets captured and wakes up in a walled-off village that's being experimented by Foundation X. Real quick, Foundation X is planning to kill people in this village in an event called Heaven's Hall, so, you know, Katsumi has things to do, people to save. Katsumi confronts Kazu and the Eyes Dopant. Kazu wants to complete this experiment, then move on to Futo, Katsumi's hometown. Katsumi opens a nearby case, grabs the Eternal memory from within, and transforms into Kamen Rider Eternal.
エターナル変身
The red flames turn blue, and he grows a trash bag for a cape. Then Katsumi kills Kazu. Yeah, that boy's dead. Katsumi opens up the village's gate to let the people escape. However, the Eyes Dopant set this up. In case the villagers left, they would automatically die from his power. Katsumi just laughs, and transforms to defeat the Dopant. When that's all done, Katsumi says that his next goal is Futo. This is from Kamen Rider Eternal, a movie that connects to what we'll talk about next. Before that, Eternal is told with flashbacks from the modern day. I only brought up the flashback portions to keep things more condensed and focused, so if you want to watch the season, then keep that in mind in terms of continuity. These cinemas tend to have more leniency in ratings. Kamen Rider may be aimed towards kids, but even Japan has a bit of a limit to what can be shown. Movies like Eternal are side content, so they can get away with more, as we'll see in later seasons. Toon Chaser Cobra, anyone? Eternal as a movie is alright. It has really cool fight scenes and gives a decent backstory to Katsumi and Never, although I admit I was a bit bored at times. Eternal is an hour long, maybe 15 to 20 minutes could have been cut, but it's not a big deal, I still enjoyed it. Now we get to our main movie of the season, A to Z, The Gaia Memories of Fate. A helicopter flies over Futo. Katsumi jumps into it to grab a new Eternal memory. Other memories get scattered from the exploding copter. Philip notices a couple of Dopants attack, except these are ones we've seen before. A woman in black shoots at them, Philip thinking it's Shroud. The Dopants turned out to be Watcherman and Santa-chan, but they don't remember what happened. The woman in black is Maria S. Cranberry. Okay, what is with these names? She's searching for 26T2 Gaia memories and Katsumi. Oh look, Queen Elizabeth have the A, K, and B memories. Get it? Cause they're from AKB48. Yeah, haha, funny inside joke. Maria tricks Shotra and Philip into meeting with her and Katsumi. I'll just say this now, Eternal has a bad suit design. It's no skull, but the white feels menacing on him, as strange as it may be. Eternal's finisher is pretty good too. Katsumi's Eternal memory turns off all T1 memories. Back at the agency, Shotaro has a vision of Skull. He's handed a lost driver and finds a T2 Joker memory. Henshin. My fanboyism is coming out. I swear, there isn't a bad writer suit design in this show. Kamen Rider Joker is literally just Shotro's half covering his whole body, and that's great. Philip wakes up tied to a giant machine in Futo Tower, so Shotaro and Terui go on a rescue mission. Katsumi takes Shotaro's Joker memory and activates the machine, but Philip finds a way to break the T2 memories, allowing the T1 memories to work again. Maria stops Katsumi, so he shoots her. Philip and Shotaro confront Katsumi one last time. A Luna Dopant grabs Double and takes them to a roof, where they see a metal roll, followed by a man in colorful clothing. The man takes the metal and transforms into what he calls Kamen Rider O's. Double continues their fight with Katsumi. On the ground, people cheer on Double. Futo's wind powers up Double into Cyclone Joker Gold Extreme. Seriously, what is with these names? They defeat Katsumi and watch the fireworks at night. I flippin' love this movie, and I didn't even get to the bigger points. Come on, everything in Double is just so good. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, we're reaching the end game now with episode 45, Who the K Needs. Akiko has dowsing slippers. That's cute. More importantly, Philip opens a book on himself from the Gaia Library, museum excavated under the Sonozaki mansion, and found a location that leads to the Earth's Will, which they called the Fountain. I don't get it either. Then Philip fell in it when he was young. However, the Philip we've known throughout the season has been dead for years. This Philip is just Data. Double and Terui try to fight Ryubei, but his terror memory is too strong for them to handle. Terui can barely move, and Shotaro feels the biggest fear of his life. Philip wakes up inside the Sonozaki mansion. His family is having a banquet, including Shroud and Psycho. Of course, the family can't be together for 5 minutes without being at each other's throats. Before Shroud leaves, she tells Philip that Shotaro is their only way of winning. Philip calls him to say goodbye. Ryubei and Philip go to the fountain. Ryubei feels no remorse but hugs Philip and pushes him in. Although Philip has been prepared, Shotaro faces Ryubei and summons up Philip's Gaia memory. They transform into Double Extreme and defeat Ryubei, destroying his terror memory. Ryubei stumbles back to his burning mansion. He dances a bit, recovering old memories, and dies in the fire. The fight still isn't over. This time, Philip has his own request. He wants Shotaro to find Wakana. Kazu has Wakana's body prepared to be sacrificed for Data. Terui, Shotaro, Philip, and Akiko find Psycho, though Kazu has something ready, his own powerful Utopia memory. Sadly, Philip can only transform one more time, then he'll disappear into the earth. Shotaro begs Shroud for help. She says that it was Sokichi's final request to save Philip. She's satisfied that Shotaro continued that request. The group attempts to fight Kazu again, but Shotaro is hesitant to transform. Psycho blasts Kazu enough to kill him, or at least if he wasn't a never that connected back to the Eternal movie. This fight leads Terui to the hospital. Shotaro can't bring himself to see Philip go. Unfortunately, there's no time left. Kazu has attacked all of Philip's friends, including Akiko, and lastly, Kazu kills Psycho. The final battle is about to begin. Shotaro rescues Wakana from an exploding facility. Philip waits for him so they can transform into Double Extreme for the last time and fight Kazu. With him defeated, Foundation X ends his research. I wanted you to see, or rather, hear, Cyclone Effects acoustic version. The power of music. The power of Extreme. While not my favorite suit, I'm more enamored by its symbolism. Shotaro and Philip have been fighting together for this past year, even longer than that with Begins Night. They understand each other without needing to talk. They have a connection that few friends would have. They're partners, from beginning to end. Nobody's Perfect is the build-up we need to a beautiful moment. Then we have Cyclone Effect in that moment. A moment that ends with Shotaro closing the case and saying goodbye. At the agency, Shotaro sees a gift that Philip left behind for him. Inside is a lost driver and a blank book with a note in the back.
僕の好きだった街をよろしく。仮面ライダー、左翔太郎。見ててくれよ。なあ、フィリップ。
Episode 49, Goodbye to the E. It's been a year since Philip disappeared. In that year, Philip's body has been restoring back to normal because Wakana gave up her body for him. Philip says bye to his family and returns to Shotaro. I understand why Philip returned. It would be a feel-good moment. The partners are back. He can possibly appear in other movies too with cameos. At least I get it. But I feel like it nullifies any lessons that Shotaro tried to learn. He couldn't promise Philip to become more independent because he needed him. Shotaro fought alone for about a year, though he should be like as if Yusuke's friends from Kuga just forgot about him, or Shoichi from Agito not pushing himself to find out about his past and the Lords, or Osamu from Hibiki getting a rival when that was far beyond the point of the season, or Kanzaki and Hajime from Blade here on the line and third time to on them. Oh wait, those last two actually happened. Why did that happen? Why did... The point is, I wouldn't mind if Philip got revived. I just wish that there was more reason and growth to do so. Oh wait, we're not done yet. A while after the series, Terui continues his work at the Futo Police Department when he gets involved with some thieves. His relationship with Akiko goes a bit rocky, but with the case, he proves that he's still on the side of good, and even gets a new form with Kamen Rider Axel Booster. I like the suit. The mustard looks good on him, I guess. We also have some backstory with Sokichi, which I'll bring up in the next season. And we have a sequel manga, Futo Detectives. I normally don't bring up side content like mangas because normally they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Looking at you, Jetman manga. But this is a nice read. It doesn't really affect things overall, but again, it's a nice read. Alright, now we're done. But don't...
Kamen Rider Double この後すぐ
Hey Marcos, with Tokusatsu, it feels like everyone has that one magic moment where it clicks and locks in. For me, that moment was Kamen Rider W. My adventures into Toku started with me watching series that I knew from the American adaptations, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, VR Troopers, and Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. While I enjoyed all these, they were still on the level of curiosities for me. Trying to break into the Kamen Rider series gave me a panic attack. So many options. What if I pick one I hate? After reading a few forum posts, I settled in on Double. It was the first time I watched a Tokusatsu series that was new and modern, but still had all the elements that made me curious. I enjoyed things like Zoo Ranger and Gridman, but Kamen Rider W, a detective who's trying to live up to his idol's footsteps, the juxtaposition of two people inhabiting the same body to fight big bads and solve crimes, and weird metaphorical USB dope fiends, almost every episode being a two-parter to lure you in to keep watching. And that moment when Kamen Rider Axel shows up, changing the whole group dynamic. It felt like something completely different than what I was getting from Western shows. It's the first time I ever got to hear powers being announced by a narrator, not realizing at the time that's just something that Kamen Rider did. It was a show of firsts for me. I fell in love with the characters. Even the ones I didn't love at the time, like Akiko, I still think back with a fondness. It was the first time I bought a Tokusatsu toy, torturing myself for months before deciding to buy a Double Driver. It was the first Tokusatsu show that made me want to talk about Tokusatsu, even if I didn't know what it was I wanted to say at the time, leading me to make new friends in a passionate community. I owe a lot to Kamen Rider W. It was the first step for me on a long path. If you're looking for a good place to jump into the Kamen Rider series, I'll always suggest the hard-boiled detective, Kamen Rider Double.
Kamen Rider Double この後すぐ
Aside from the end rant, can you tell that I love this season? I don't think I've seen anyone say they didn't like Double. If there was any negativity, then it was the usual, Heisei isn't good as Showa comments. I should get reviewing more of the show. The story is pretty straightforward, which goes hand in hand with the 2-episode structure. Events that continue the plot are few and far between, but clues are sprinkled here and there about what's coming. You know, foreshadowing like a detective novel. The individual stories don't bore me and are very fun to watch. Being somewhat episodic, some arcs have absolutely nothing to do with anything. Episodes 7 and 8 have Philip try to get a dance couple together so you can watch them do a dance move. The only thing we learn from these episodes is that Museum has a cat who can transform. Cute. There's also this guy wearing a Tupac shirt. By the end, Philip learns the dance move and becomes apathetic towards the two focused one-offs of these episodes. Again, nothing to do with anything, but I thoroughly enjoyed the drama between the one-offs. These type of episodes continue even towards the end. Episode 40 and 41 has Akiko film a movie for a culprit of the case. There we learn that Psycho has the Nazca Gaia memory. Yeah, it doesn't really matter in this grand scheme of things, but it was funny to see Shotaro and friends try to make a movie when they don't know how. Terui even tries to learn how to kiss? Truly, this is why despair is his goal. I'm gonna have to hand it to Riku Sanjo, the head writer for Double and Kamen Rider Drive. He knows how to write characters. We have 3 main characters, 4 when Terui arrives. What's great to see is the dynamic each one has with each other, as well as the side cast and one-offs. Beginning with Shotaro, he's such a genuine guy, and I don't just mean his actor, who I met and got to sign my double ride card. Anyway, Shotaro is one of those protagonists that you just can't hate. I mean, what is there to hate? His friendliness and half-boiledness comes off as real characterization. Until the end, it felt like Shotaro didn't need to grow. It was when we learned that he couldn't become independent is when his characterization felt tampered, especially when Philip was revived. Sorry, I'll move past that. Overall, Shotaro is a great character and one of my favorite main writers in the whole series. The other half of Shotaro has more of a focus, and it's well deserved. Philip has the main part of the story, and his arc is near perfect. His mysterious backstory didn't feel forced and naturally flowed throughout the story. Philip's genius is a good inclusion to Shotaro's agency. Having the Earth knowledge at your fingertips would be quite convenient to solve mysteries. While Shotaro is my favorite protagonist of Double, I feel that Philip is just as good. Except for, you know. Now, if only he could come back as a cameo one of these years, but I stated why he couldn't earlier. I just remember that one problem people might have for the season is Akiko. I've seen comments say that she was really annoying. I mean, is she? Her acting isn't up to par with the rest of the cast, but her character isn't that bad. If anything, I was happy that she was included in the investigations and not pushed to the side to do nothing like other writer girls. There were even a couple times where she almost solved cases by herself. I think some of the annoyance comes from her quirks of hitting someone with her slippers or her overacting. Her slippers are quick gags that only last a few seconds, and Akiko settles down past the first few episodes. Really, I don't think she's that bad. Our secondary writer, Terui, was pretty good too. I enjoyed his arc way more than some future writers, and he grew as much as a character like his should. If anything, I wish he did a bit more in this season. His movie was awesome, one of my favorite Toku films, don't get me wrong. But within the season, he doesn't really do much outside fighting Isaka. He's brought up to be Philip's true partner, but that doesn't go anywhere with him. He stares at Shroud like, nah fam, and that's it. As a secondary writer, Terui is fine enough. He still goes on investigations and fights dope pants in pretty cool scenes. The Sonozakis aren't great villains, but they're great characters, if that makes any sense. Ryubei's main motive was to start a Gaia impact and stop humanity from going extinct. Alright, then why is he a villain? The Dopants are monsters, so I guess they gotta get beat up by someone eventually? I'm pretty sure I missed something somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure what. Cause not going extinct sounds like a pretty neat idea, I don't know, I just like having humanity live. I'm sure you guys will tell me in the comments even after I find out. I do like the Dopant designs though, and like I said early on, having actual people be the ones to transform is great. Some Dopants didn't even try to do evil things, so it was interesting to find out where those arcs would go. The Sonozaki family was pretty good. Seeing them fall apart was oddly cathartic. I'm sure you guys would know from my other videos that I love when villains are fighting over politics. We have the Sonozakis fight over who would be the next in line. Psycho got rid of Kirihiko because she didn't want to stop at accomplishing her goal, even if it meant killing her husband. Wakana didn't want to do anything with Museum until she saw Ryubei's plan for the Gaia impact towards the end. Can't forget about their cat either. He's so cute. I should probably also bring up Foundation X. They just don't do much, so there's that. I liked Kazu being the big bad of the season for some reason. I'm not even sure why. I guess it's because Utopia looks cool, but yeah, Foundation X, we'll see them in other seasons, yada yada yada, okay. Oh man, I can't believe we've gone on for this long. Let's get into my final thoughts.
仮面ライダーダブルこの後すぐ
From the moment this was requested on Patreon, I knew what I wanted to say, but I'm not the one that needs to say it. Each character is memorable. The story, while simple, is great. The world is immersive. This season has meant so much to me, even when I watched it live all the way. With all that being said, I'll see you guys next time when we count the medals 1, 2, and 3 with Kamen Rider O's. Dang it, I should have followed with the rhyme.
Ah.